In the aftermath of the summit between Korea and the United States, there is increased attention paid to private sector connections, especially in the field of science and technology. At the very foundation of this relationship are startups, often at the forefront of innovation and creativity in any market.
보스턴의 첨단 산업 혁신 클러스터와 한국의 첨단 산업 클러스터가 긴밀하게 협력하고 이를 토대로 미국의 과학기술 역량과 또 한국의 역량이 결합된다면 양국 경제 모두에게 큰 시너지가 될 것으로 확신합니다.
This week, we continue our focus on globalists who are playing a major role in the bilateral relationship with Perry Ha, the Korean-American president of Draper-Athena, a major venture capital in Silicon Valley. Perry Ha shares his insights on the future of this crucial relationship and how to nurture people who can help drive innovation and growth in both countries. So, Perry, welcome to The Globalist. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
So, you are a CEO of a very successful venture capital in Silicon Valley, Draper-Athena. Tell us the Perry Ha story, like your elevator pitch about who Perry Ha is.
I'm a Korean American. I was born and raised in Korea, went over to the U.S. When I was in high school, then finished college, grad school, MBA, etc. I was an engineer for most of my part, and then switched over to become a venture capitalist back in 1997, and for the past 25 years or so, I've been in investment. I have done that. Now I'm also continues to invest, but at a slower pace, spending a lot more time now in nonprofits and mentoring the younger CEOs, younger investors, etc., which has been giving me tremendous pleasure and gratefulness for what I've accomplished so far.
So you are very at a turning point in your life, but it still must be a very difficult process. I mean, you talked a little bit about getting involved and helping, but what actually does a venture capital fund do for venture capital?
That's a good question. Most obvious thing is financing. Without funding, you cannot hire, you cannot even buy computers or servers and anything that's necessary to build your products and services. And along the way, we actually end up becoming sort of like a confidant, advisor, quasi-lawyer, quasi-accountant, because we happen to see issues that all the startups face as they grow over time. So let's say you have products ready, you need to start generating revenues, then you got to hire the best sales VP or marketing VP for the first time. And that hire is so important. So we end up helping quite a bit, finding the good candidates and try to match with the company and also help with the interviews, etc. So we end up, side by side, thinking through the contract. How do we negotiate and try to see it through?
So they may have the product, but you help them actually create the company that is able to manage and sell and increase the potential of this product.
Every aspect of that, without getting paid. Wow. We give them money and then we actually work for free. And we do that across the board. Okay. And not all the companies succeed, but therefore the ones who succeed will end up giving really high returns for us.
You try to include your expertise as well as, of course.
Everyone brings different expertise to the table. In addition to money. And that's why, to me, venture capital isn't a finance industry. To me, it's more like a company building industry.
You have made a lot of startups become quite successful companies in your career. Tell us about a few of them. And how did you know that they would be successful when you first met them?
I'm still thinking about them, and there's certainly a methodology to become a good investor, especially in early stage. And at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to identifying and working with the right founder who's got the ability to persevere, the intelligence, the ethics, and things like that. Especially when you do B2B investment, then it's technology-driven. So your ability to understand the technology and the implication and how the technology will evolve and how you understand that would be quite important. There were two companies in particular at the time, one called the Demantech, the other one called ProfitLogic. I was able to understand the data analytics and the important part of data at that time. As a new guy coming into venture capital without any investment experience, I was doing a lot of studies and thinking about the market, and I was able to invest in those two companies who both became very successful. So in some ways, it kind of made a mark in my mind. The fact that I was able to make an investment in an area where other people thought it was kind of unusual, believing in those founders in such early stage and working with them become successful was a real lesson for me, and I think I was somewhat lucky at the same time. For example, Demantech, I invested in them when two people came with this piece of paper, nothing else.
So you were like the people on Shark Tank. You know, they were presenting their ideas to you. Well, I mean, being in Silicon Valley, which has long been considered the mecca of startups and entrepreneurs and technology. I mean, you can see a lot of the trends happening. And although they talk about this mecca now being diversified into other parts of the United States and the world, still, I mean, I'm sure that in Silicon Valley, you see a lot of the trends, a lot of the disruptions about where the business is heading. What are some of the recent trends that you're noticing from your viewpoint?
Generative AI, just like ChatGPT has, and then now that's going to create such a huge platform. So what I've seen in the last 25 years is that each year or two, there are new thing that pops up and all the investors go, wow, that's the next new thing. We just go in and make a lot of investments, and not all of them succeed. Sometimes the whole sector dies and never takes off. Optical communications, for example, it was a huge investment went in, but it never made happen in early 2000s. But let's say generative AI. Out of 200 companies in Y Combinator in the most recent class, about 70 companies out of 200 were in generative AI sector. So already 70 companies from the leading accelerator are already born, and they're going through funding.
It's only a few months in terms of we being this very first, well, I'm from a consumer's point of view, so you might have been seeing it a lot before me, but it seems only a few months since it's made the headlines, so it's already in that
class. And there are accelerators, incubators all over the world now who is looking at to help produce generative AI companies. So there'll be a lot of opportunities. A lot of companies will be very successful, but also even more will not make it through. Yeah. That's the law of nature, right? And that's the systemic nature of the work that we do.
So it has a lot to do with how you can read where the market is going and whether that kind of technology will be adaptable to where the market is going. In that scenario, how do you think this generative AI is going to change the whole market or the world in the next few years?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, from your vantage point,
I say, oh my gosh, because I think it's going to have such a huge impact across the board. One of our portfolio companies in Korea, they just decided to use 챗GPT to produce all the pre-sales material, marketing collateral, things like that. And the CEO is basically saying 챗GPT is better than the junior employee you hire and train for a year. And you can get it done within seconds, within minutes. So I think it's going to have tremendous impact in the way we do things and investment side and everything else in the near future and then some.
We don't even know what kind of changes will happen. But do you think of it in an optimistic light, or do you think of it as a concerning perspective?
I think change is constant. In 1899, U.S. Patent Office Commissioner named Dewey said, anything that needs to be invented has been already invented. How wrong he was. And same thing with venture capital. We thrive on change. If there's a new change, it's going to disrupt what's available. Then there's an opportunity. And that's how venture capital investment creates the kind of return that it does. So we're always looking to push the envelope. And we think smart people along the way will figure out the legal, marketing, or other implications along the way. So the short answer, in my opinion, is you have to embrace the change. Because if you don't agree and if you sit back, you'll be left far behind.
여섯 개 미국 첨단 기업들이 총 19억 원의 한국 투자를 결정했습니다. 여러분의 투자는 올해 70주년을 맞이한 한미 동맹에 큰 의미가 있습니다.
Especially now with the close relationship between Korea and the U.S., how receptive is the American market for Korean American as well as Korean venture company startups to be successful in the United States?
Silicon Valley is a place, U.S. in general, but not this, especially Silicon Valley is a place where meritocracy really triumphs everything else. So it's less about whether you accept it or not. It's really about how you bring something that's valuable to the table for others to accept you as your co-investment partner or business partner. So the moment you start thinking about, okay, now because I'm a foreigner, I'm an Asian, I'm Korean, I don't speak the language well, then you already lost. Number one thing that I tell about Korean entrepreneurs about trying to go into the US is don't lose the confidence because you don't speak perfect English. Korean education traditionally has been such a way that unless you can speak perfectly, don't speak, right? And you have to understand the difference between language, the ability to speak English versus ability to communicate. The actual word portion of the communication is only 5 to 10%, right? The other is about your stance, your tone, eye contact, firm handshake, all that. And being able to short sentences in a way that effectively communicates what you really mean. And those are the areas where typically Korean entrepreneurs really lack. They have far better skill set than they project themselves to be.
Is that changing?
It's changing because oftentimes the successful startups are founded by US educated Korean Americans or Koreans who will go back and partner with local Koreans and found the companies. You've been there, right? Just like if you've been to both sides, then you understand far better how to react and craft a story or the products or services that fits the market that you're trying to go after. So I think overall, a lot of Korean startups who've been far more successful expanding beyond Korea are the ones founded by Western educated Koreans.
We've had some entrepreneurs on the show, and Seju Jung, a few that have been Koreans who've actually just, landed in the United States and just started. And they say many more Koreans should try that, that they should have the confidence and seek out the American market because it's a much greater market, and their ratio and I guess chances for success are a lot bigger in the United States. Do you also tell Koreans that they should still try to live the American dream?
If you have the chance, why not? And I encourage them, but you have to understand that let's say you land in Silicon Valley without knowing anybody, hardly speak the English or don't understand the culture, and you expect to be successful, then the odds are against you, but you have to understand what those odds are. Think about all the smart people who come to Stanford, right in the middle of Silicon Valley, who get educated, and they get all the network, and then they graduate, found a company, all their upperclassmen are founders of Yahoo and Google and everything else, and they get a lot of advice. Those are very, very simple examples of the kind of network that you have. But vice versa, if you bring somebody from the Western world, come to Korea and start a company, would they be really, successful without knowing anybody, right? So understand what's against you, and then if you can figure out to mitigate those risks, U.S. is a much bigger market than Korea. Once you start a company, you'll be working 24/7. Why not work for a much bigger pie and make a much bigger impact? In that light, I think it's better to go to a place like U.S. or bigger markets and do so.
It sounds like a wonderful opportunity, but also sort of a daunting one if you're looking at it from a young Korean perspective. Especially now with the close relationship between Korea and the U.S., do you see a lot of Korean venture capitalists in the United States becoming even more successful or making a bigger mark?
Short answer is they should. A lot of leading Korean venture capital firms are now opening offices abroad. And obviously the very first place they do look for is actually Silicon Valley. It's not necessarily because they want to take their portfolio companies and become successful in the U.S. It's rather for deal sourcing.
Deal sourcing.
Deal sourcing meaning how can I find good companies to invest beyond Korea? Korean market has become tremendous.
For example?
Baemin, Toss, Coupang, even Kakao,
Yeah.
and all these are very, very successful startups who now big companies. But now, because they're more successful, they have bigger capital, so they also want to continuously invest, and they want to invest beyond Korean market. So the Silicon Valley has gone through the whole growth for a long time, and looking at the success, Korea, everyone is like bali kind of
Yeah.
thing. How do we get there fast and look just like Silicon Valley? And you gotta hand it to Koreans, both entrepreneurs, VCs, and Korean government, because it's policy-driven thing really seeded the early stage of the venture capital industry that shortcutted for its success to date so far.
But when they want to expand their portfolio in the United States, you said they should be successful, meaning that they're not yet successful?
Not yet. It's not proven yet. When they expand into the U.S., they need to be integrated well with the local network so that they can be part of the syndication of the deal in a good company. And you don't want to be the only one investing for these sort of simple examples that I've described. But I think they're going to get there if you spend time and continue investing in the local relationships.
And that's where you get companies like your companies come in.
Yeah, looking back, think about what's like Perry Ha's value in this whole ecosystem is it's my experience and understanding of both cultures, culture as well as the network of people on both sides. Both cultures, do you understand the differences? You could be the best investor in Korea, but if you never step foot outside Korea, then you wouldn't know how to help your portfolio company become a successful startup if they venture into the U.S., for example. So you need understanding of both and being able to kind of coach and guide the CEOs, other co-investors along the way. And hey, here's the pitfalls and things like that is probably the skill set the experience that I have developed the most.
Do you see anything, you as a Korean, and obviously you work a lot with the Korean Americans in the United States, and you've been talking to a lot of Korean entrepreneurs here as well. Is there a quality that you see in the Korean DNA that is unique, or something that may be more effective in the world of venture capital?
Yes, there are. And I think number one thing is Koreans are in general very well educated. It does make a difference. The fact that they're well educated means that they're better disciplined. It's hard to be a student in Korea, right?
Very.
And even at young ages, they are used to working hard and after school programs, et cetera. So I think that's really important. Second is ethics. Koreans are quite strong ethically, especially the ones who are, for whatever reason, educated abroad at the same time. And I think they bring the Western ethics combined with the Confucius-based learnings and upbringing, and I found them to be really good people to work with. So I think those are real benefits for startups to succeed.
We are so fortunate to have such dedicated leaders working for our community. In addition to supporting these leaders, we also support the next generation.
Let's talk a little bit about Chapter 2 of Perry Ha's venture. You talk about your foundation, and so tell us about what that foundation sets out to do.
About 80 years ago, my late wife co-founded a foundation called Korean American Community Foundation in San Francisco. This organization is modeled after an organization in New York. And basically what it does is that this foundation will raise money and become sort of like fund of funds. And they'll give money to the agencies who actually do the work for the seniors, Better Women, legal services, AJ Health Services, scholarships, internships, etc., across the board. So last gala, year 2022, we raised over $1.1 million, and we're able to contribute that to these agencies. Our organization is set up for sustainability for a long haul in supporting the local Korean American community.
And you talked about your late wife. Is that something that your wife and you had sort of thought and planned?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. My late wife was an amazing woman, and it was in her stage 4 cancer stage that she actually co-founded. And she used to say this amazing thing where life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's rather about learning how to dance in the rain.
She sounds like an amazing woman. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. So during that period, she and her co-founders were able to build this organization, and I was always supportive. And then after she passed, we set up a scholarship in her honor, and we're doing very well since then.
Your face lights up when you talk about how well it's doing. So obviously, it's a reflection of someone else looking down somewhere else upon that. Very glad to hear all of your successes in both you as a president of venture capital and the foundation, and helping other various types of venture capitals become successful. So you'll have to come back and tell us after, in a few years, how much the generative AI has changed your life and the whole venture capital world.
Be happy to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's it for me. I'll be back next week with another globalist who is putting Korea on the map. Sun Jie out.